Good evening, everyone. I know and believe that we are all excited to celebrate the New Year's Eve, but I really appreciate you for sparing some time to come here and worship together with our brothers and sisters in the Lord in this sanctuary. I am fond of bringing my children outside for a vacation, to play with them, to have some time with them. And often, if I bring them to a playhouse, I observe that they usually go first to slide. They would go up and then slide down, go up, slide down until they get tired and proceed to another amenities. That's what they usually do. But one time, I brought them to a playhouse with a slide also that is quite structured differently because it's like a tube. And when you look at it from the top, it's quite dark inside it. So I observed that my little girl, a 5-year-old girl, went up, and then instead of sliding down, she did not get inside that tube. She just stared at it for a few minutes. And then she left it and then went to the open one. And she did it over and over. A few minutes later, I went to her and said, "Why don't you try? Get in the tube." And she said, "No. Why don't you try?" She told me. "But I do not fit on the tube." So I told her, "Only you can do that. Why are you scared?" Because as I was looking at her, I observed that she was quite scared to do. So she said, "Because it's dark. I cannot see what's inside it. And the structure is quite different because it's quite like a spiral." And so I told her, "You just try." And she really insisted because she's scared. So what I did, I went down on the other side of it, and then I called her name. When she heard my voice, she responded to me, "Daddy, Daddy." We taught them to call us Mama and Papa. But later, we found out that both of them call us Mommy and Daddy. So medyo social ang mga anak ko. So when she heard my voice, she also shouted, "Daddy!" And then I put my hands inside it on the other side and put on the light of my cell phone. And I told her, "Can you see now?" She said, "Yes, I can see now." "Will you slide now?" She said, "Yes, I will." And she slid down and I caught her on the other side. As I was thinking about this passage that God has endowed to me tonight, I remembered that situation. And somehow that poses a reality that is consistent with what I learned from the text that I have meditated upon, which I would be explaining to you tonight. That the truth that it's quite easy to say, "I trust the Lord," or "I trust someone," if things around us are clear, if we can decipher, if we can calculate, if we can understand things. But when what is confronting us is dark, unclear, something that we are not familiar of, then it is then when the issue of faith and trust becomes quite different. I remember when I was in high school, we used to visit a river up in the mountain. That mountain is called Sininan in the rural area of Zamboanga, Sibugay. We went one time to that river because there's a portion of it that looked like a pool. Not man-made, natural. And the water was colored blue. That tells us that the river was deep. One time, one of my friends dived, and then he noticed that there was a cave at the bottom. He went up and then told me, "JR, I noticed that there's a cave at the bottom. You dive and try to check inside." You know what I said? Ayoko nga. Naapalay bitin din ha sa ubos. Matutuklaw pa ako ng ahas. And then I told my other friend, why don't you try? And all of them said, we don't like to do that. And so at that afternoon, we did not went inside the cave. We didn't go inside the cave, but we just swim at the surface only. A few months later, we went back, and we noticed that there were a lot of kids, a lot of children playing. They dive on the pool also, in the water. And then one of them came out and said, have you tried getting inside the cave? And we started inquiring, why? What do you see inside? He said, it's nice. Those you can see formations. You can see it's like a house inside. And so without a second thought, all of us went down and then got inside the cave. Why did we do that this time? Because somebody already informed us what we can see inside it. But before, it was unknown to us. It was unfamiliar to us. That is why everyone was scared. In the same sense about realities of life, there are times that we will be confronted with something that is unfamiliar, something that is unknown to us. It is then that our trust and faith on God is challenged. Why am I telling you this? Because 2017 is about to end. We are on the last day of the year. Tomorrow is already 2018. And reality is that no one among us can tell what is going to happen next year. No one. We may predict, we may guess out of the patterns that we experience within the year, because there are patterns in this world that we follow. For example, every Sunday we come to church. There are 7 days of the week. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. 7 days of the week. Every Monday, the pattern is Sunday, we come to church. We worship God together. But we know for sure that if you are a student, on the following day, if there would be a class, you would go to your school. Right? And it becomes a routine on a weekly basis. So we try to predict things based on the patterns that we experience. Maybe there are patterns that we experience within the year, and we try to predict what is going to happen next year. But reality is that no matter and regardless of the patterns that we observe around us, based on our experiences, nobody can tell exactly what will take place in the coming year. I do not know if I would still be alive. You do not know if you would still be alive. We do not know if we are still earning as how we earned this year. We do not know if we would have all our loved ones around us. We do not know if God would give you a car by then, before the excise tax would be fully implemented. We do not know if you would venture to a new business next year. We do not know, okay? We try to predict and guess based on patterns. But when something that is unfamiliar, something that is uncertain would confront us, how are we going to deal with it? How should we respond to things like that? Based on my study on the life of Abraham, I realized that a simple trust is what is needed. Let us open our Bibles in the book of Genesis, chapter 12. Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 to 9. It says here, from the NET, now the Lord said to Abram, go out from your country, your relatives, and your father's household, to the land that I will show you. Then I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, so that you will exemplify divine blessing. I will bless those who bless you, but the one who treats you lightly, I must curse. And all the families of the earth will bless one another by your name. So Abram left, just as the Lord had told him to do, and Lot went with him. Now Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And Abram took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all the possessions they had accumulated and the people they had acquired in Haran. And they left for the land of Canaan. They entered the land of Canaan. Abram traveled through the land as far as the oak tree of Moreh at Shechem. And at that time Canaanites were in the land. the Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your descendants I will give this land." So Abraham built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. Then he moved from there to the hill country east of Bethel and pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and worshiped the Lord there. Abram continually journeyed by stages down to Negev. May the good Lord bless the reading of His Word. I entitled the message tonight, "To the Unknown with God." As we look at the experience of Abram here, the Lord called him to do something that was hard for him to do. If I would think and put myself on his shoes, it would be hard for me to do. Why? Going back to the text, it tells us that the place called Haran was a place where Abram was very familiar of already. He knew the place very well. And not only that he was familiar about the place, but it was where his relatives were staying. So if you have your relatives with you, if you have a need, you know where to go. If you need some help, you know whom to call, right? So it's really a big comfort if you have your relatives with you. Added to that, his father had his possessions there. And so everything that Abraham would need was there already. Everything, basically. Companions, family, friends, connection, material needs, everything, it was there already. But God called him to do something with this two-word statement: go out. Go out. That's just two words. Go out. And I believe it was quite hard for him to do that because of those reasons that I have mentioned earlier. Everything was there. Everybody that you want to be with is there. And now, Lord, you are asking me to go out of this comfort zone? And added to that dilemma was the truth that God called him to go out of that comfortable place to somewhere that he did not even specify. Because when you look at the text, God did not even mention to him that I am going to bring you to Canaan. God just told him, I am going to bring you somewhere to that place that I have prepared. So it was not clear to Abram as to where God was leading him. What was clear to him was that God was telling him to go out. That was his situation. That is why if you look and move forward to the New Testament, we're in the book of Genesis. You move forward to the New Testament in the book of Hebrews chapter 11 verse 8. This is what you'll read. By faith, Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to a place he would later receive as an inheritance. And he went out without understanding. Take note of this. He went out without understanding where he was going. Because going back to the passage in Genesis, God did not tell him that he was bringing him to Canaan. God just told him, you go out. And this is like very ironic because he was there in a place wherein he was very comfortable because finances were, the wealth was there, relatives were there, connections were there, a very comfortable zone. And God told him, you go out, and outside is something that was unknown, something that is unfamiliar, and that's hard to do. But God told him, you go out. And as I was meditating on this, I said, he brought some of his, I thought of this, I read of this. He brought some of his possessions. He brought some of his people, his slaves. He had with him Lot and his wife. But more than those things that he brought with him, he was clinging to God's promises in his life. So we'll proceed to verses 2 and 3, and this is what you will see. All he had were the promises of God to him. God told him, you go out, and then he gave these promises. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great. And I will bless those who bless you. Three nuances of God's blessings that I have seen here: fertility, prosperity, and victory for Abram. Fertility, prosperity, and victory. Those were the promises of God to him. You go out, and I have promised these things to you. But where was he going? It's quite unfamiliar. And I believe if I'm going to think about this, and Abram would, if he rationalized on this statement of God, I will make you into a great nation. He could have asked God, Lord, you could make me a great nation while I'm here in Haran? Because I do not have a child this time. How could you turn me into a great nation if I do not have a son? While here in Haran, I have my relatives here. We could just stay together, work together, and then build a nation. Why go out of this place? The Lord told him, I will bless you. Blessings are here. It's in Haran. You will bring me out there to the unknown. What blessings could I find there? I might even die in the journey. What could I get outside? The blessings are here. But did you hear him say those words? No. You go to verse 4, and what you will read is that he just did exactly what God told him. Amazing faith of an old man. Added to this dilemma is the reality that he was already 75-year-old. Now listen to this. Who among of you here at the age 75 would dare to do something new in life? I was listening to Dr. Daniel Ho of the Mansara Otama Methodist Church back then when we went to Kuala Lumpur. And he was asked by, I think his associate pastor, Chris Cam, if you would be given a chance to do again what you have started here in the UMC. It's a congregation of 3,000 people, and he's the one who started it. If you're given a chance by God to do the same thing, to start a church, will you do it? And Dr. Daniel Ho said, if I am as young as I was when I started this church, then I will do it. But that time, I think he was already 65, like that. If God would call you to do something new at that age, it's quite hard to do it. It's quite hard to follow that call. Abraham was 75. I'm going to make you into a great nation. And the reminder came to him when he was already 99. Proceed to chapter 17, verse 1. He did not have a son yet, even when he was there in Canaan already. It took a lot of years more. So Abraham was old. Will you still dare to do new things and venture to the unknown with full of uncertainties? I don't think so. But what did he do and how did he respond to God? He went out, just as God told him. Why am I telling you this? As I have mentioned earlier, we are about to end in the year 2017. The Lord has been very good to us. Typhoon Vinta just came to Mindanao, and many places were victimized. Many places were really destroyed. And one of those places is Socon, which later Dr. Rosalita would include in his announcement. But here in Zamboanga, we are so blessed that there was no tragedy that happened. No bombings, no attacks from the rebels. 2017 was really a peaceful one, productive one. 2017 was an abundant year. Will it be the same next year? I cannot tell you, and I do not know. We do not know. We do not know if the enemies would come and try to destroy our city. We do not know. We do not know if a natural calamity would come. We do not know. One thing I know is that my faithful God would always be with us. And that's the assurance that we could have. The promise to Abram was given as the one who started the nation of Israel. I'm not saying that God is telling us, I will bless you, I will make you into a great nation. I'm not saying that. But what I'm trying to tell you this evening is that we can be assured that God is faithful to His children. God would always be with us. And that is why even if next year is unknown and it is filled with uncertainties, I know for sure that your journey, you would see God side by side walking with you. I wrote this portion and I want us to look into this. 2017 is almost over. And we will enter 2018, which is unknown. The journey will not be easy. Life will not be perfect. But we will step out of the year with our faithful God who will lead us and will bring us to greater heights. After all, this is not our story. It is the story of God. So next year, I am inviting all of you to welcome the new year with faith in our hearts that God would always be with us. Happy New Year to everyone, and the Lord bless us all.